Hey, what's up? It's your boy Marlon. It's summertime. I'm outside on the grill. You know what's up already. Got one of my favorites, bacon ribs. Imagine taking a big old slab of ribs, but with the belly, the pork belly, still attached to it. Like, right? So if you know pork belly, the belly is where bacon comes from. So all of that flavor that's in bacon, but on a rib bone. I take that and then flavor it with kind of a fusion of the South and the Caribbean with the rub and the glaze. The rub's got allspice, brown sugar, paprika, thyme, salt, pepper. And then you got this glaze, rum base with guava. You can add a little bit of heat if you want to, but that's it. You got the Caribbean meets the South on a rib bacon. This is basically a rib recipe from my gramps that I just kind of remix to fit my style and kind of what's going on today in the world. That's all there is to it. So instead of ribs, we got the pork belly ribs. And then instead of a simple salt and pepper rub, we kind of got a little fancied up with the rub, did a little extra with the glaze. Yeah, that bone makes pork belly hit different. It adds a whole nother different vibe to what it's like to eat pork belly. And that pork belly adds something to the ribs. So making it just a whole nother vibe when you're eating pork ribs. You know, I'm just saying, it's all of that and then some. So the song pairing for this recipe is a song called Fancy Clown by the Abstract Orchestra. It's actually, they take a sample from a ZZ Hill song. ZZ Hill was a blues artist, one of my grandfather's favorite artists. And he had this song called That Ain't the Way to Make Love. It's a dope song, and the hook is just extraordinary. Anyway, these guys took that hook and turned it and flipped it into a whole other song. And that's kind of, you know, what I'm doing with this recipe. I'm taking my grandfather's recipe, inspired by one of his favorite artists, and flipping it, you know, based on or inspired by a remake or a different interpretation of his classic song. So that's it. That's the song. That's the recipe. That's the inspiration, and that's how we're doing it. Yeah, my gramps was definitely one of my biggest influences, especially when it comes to cooking. I took this rib recipe of his, which was a simple rub with like a basic barbecue glaze, and just elevated it, added some extra to it with the special mix rub and the Guava Rum based glaze. So I got Grandpop's work, and then two of my favorite cuisines, utilizing two of my favorite custom meat, ribs plus pork belly. The South meets the Caribbean over ribs and pork belly, pork bacon, rib, dope, great recipe. First things first, another question is, where do I get bacon ribs or pork belly ribs? You're probably gonna have to go to a butcher. Normally they will have it. You can ask them for, you know, to cut it the way you wanted to get it cut. If you're lucky like me, sometimes my local grocery store will have them like cut into slices, so I don't have to do any cutting. But more than likely, you're gonna have to, you know, get them at a butcher shop. But if you find them behind the counter in the meat section of your grocery store, grab them, freeze them if you have to, but you definitely want to cop some. When you get your pork belly ribs, you know, give it a nice inspection. Depending on how much fat, you may or may need to cut some of the excess off. So bacon is basically cured pork belly, right? So the question becomes to cure or not to cure. I chose not to just for the sake of time, and I just used a really, really big bowl rub that I marinated my pork belly in overnight. And that worked for me, but if you have the time, if you want to cure, you want more of that kind of bacon flavor or that more bacon-like texture, you can definitely cure it using a wet cure or a dry to get it done. Have a little fun with your rub. A good rub can add texture in terms of like the crust on the outside, but also more complexity of flavor, depending on how you do it. And when I make my rubs, I like to use a mix of kind of like finely ground or powdery type spices mixed with more coarse spices. So think like a black pepper, coarse grain, a kosher salt. Those will have like those crystals that just give it a little more texture and also make it a little more fun when you're eating your dish. The key with the rub is you want to balance with the flavors in addition to like having some texture creativity. By balance, I mean like if you have a lot of sweet, then you want to make sure there's maybe some spicy or some earthy, definitely something that's a little more savory. You want to preheat that smoker and stay at about 225 to 250 degrees. 250 is max. Definitely you want this to be a slow and low affair. These are going to cook for a couple hours or more. You want that slow and low cook time because what that does is, in addition to cooking the meat fully, it also allows that fat cap to render slowly, and you get kind of a reduced fat that's like really chewy and really fun to eat when you bite into it. So the glaze is special. It gives the ribs this kind of candy-like vibe. When you reduce the rum concentrated, you know, some of those sweetness comes out. And then you mix that with the guava. Yes, yes, it's lovely. It's a lovely thing. The other thing with the glaze is because there's a lot of sugar in the glaze, you don't want to add the glaze to the meat too soon. You really want to wait until like you're in your last 30 minutes or so of cook time, and then you want to start to brush that glaze onto the pork. Otherwise, that sugar from the guava and from the rum will start to burn, and you will have a kind of bitter taste on your ribs, and we don't want that. Once the ribs are done, let them sit undisturbed for about 5 minutes, maybe 10 minutes. You can put like a tinfoil layer on top just to kind of keep them warm. But you want to let them rest so the moisture and all of that, those juices inside can kind of redistribute. And so when you bite into it, you just get like this really, you know, moist, tender, juicy bite into your ribs. And that's it. Those are the tips. You'll make amazing ribs. Your guests, if you have them, you, whoever, will enjoy these to the fullest. So as always, if you dig the recipe, give it a like, give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, engage with me. Most importantly, hit that red subscribe button. Continue to get new updates each week when I post. Thank you. And hey, be inspired, inspire others. Peace out.